بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
One of the most important things a committed Muslim can do is to understand the architecture of Islamic knowledge itself, not merely to learn rulings and practices in isolation, but to understand how those rulings and practices are derived, organized, and protected. Before we can discuss deeper topics of creed and what distinguishes sound belief from deviation, we need a clear map of the terrain. That map begins with a single word, fiqh. The word fiqh in Arabic means deep understanding, comprehension, or discernment. In the Islamic sciences, fiqh broadly refers to the comprehensive knowledge required for correct practice, the rules and laws of Islamic conduct, grounded in and supported by solid proofs from the primary sources of revelation. Fiqh encompasses all the knowledge a Muslim needs to perform the deeds and acts of worship that Islam requires. It is, in a precise sense, the knowledge necessary for correct amal, correct action. At its most expansive meaning, fiqh is the total body of understanding that enables a Muslim to act correctly before Allah. In the earliest generations of Islamic scholarship, the totality of Islamic knowledge was grouped under the single heading of fiqh, but it was divided into two branches. The first was called Fiqh al-Akbar, the greater understanding. This branch encompassed everything related to aqaid, beliefs, creed, and the fundamental principles of what a Muslim must hold to be true about Allah, prophethood, the unseen, and the hereafter. The body of knowledge studied within this branch was called ilm-e-kalam, the science of theological discourse. Within this discipline, the articles of faith were discussed, examined, and defended with rigorous proofs and evidence. It was called the greater understanding not because other knowledge is unimportant, but because what a person believes is foundational to everything else they think and do. The second was called Fiqh al-Asghar, the lesser understanding. This branch contained the detailed rules and laws of Islamic practice, the Sharia governing prayer, fasting, trade, marriage, inheritance, and all the outward dimensions of a Muslim's life. Here, the concern was practical conduct, the specific rulings that organize day-to-day life in accordance with Allah's command. As Islamic scholarship developed and grew more precise in its terminology, the original two-part division was gradually replaced by a more refined set of distinctions. The branch of Fiqh al-Akbar, dealing with creed and theology, ceased to be called by that name. It retained its substance but took on the name ilm-e-kalam, the science of theological argument. This discipline had grown into something more specialized and systematic, a scholarly craft that required training, depth of thought, and rigorous command of evidence. The scholars who mastered this field and were recognized as its experts and became known as ulama-e-mutkalimin, the scholars of Kalam. In the Islamic scholarly tradition, the knowledge they dealt with, concerning the articles of faith, their proofs, and the refutation of deviant positions, is referred to as the foundational knowledge of the religion, because it addresses what underlies everything else. The branch of Fiqh al-Asghar, meanwhile, simply came to be known as fiqh. Today, when a Muslim says fiqh, they mean the practical legal knowledge of the Islamic Sharia, the rulings governing deeds and actions. The scholars who have mastered this knowledge and are recognized as its authorities are called fuqaha, jurists. This distinction is not merely academic. In later discussions of creed and conduct, particularly on the boundaries of belief and disbelief, the consequences of specific statements or actions, and how Islamic law handles complex theological questions, these two categories of scholarship address problems in quite different ways. The ulama-e-mutkalimin approach a question from the angle of what is correct to believe and what the proofs of Aqeedah establish. The fuqaha approach the same problem from the angle of what the legal ruling is and what practical consequence follows from it. Understanding which type of scholar is speaking, and within which framework, is essential for understanding what they are saying. Going forward, whenever you encounter the phrase ulama-e-mutkalimin, you will know that these are the masters of ilm-e-kalam, scholars whose expertise lies in the knowledge of aqaid and theological proofs. And whenever you hear fuqaha, you will know these are the jurists, the experts of practical Islamic law and the rules of shari and conduct. Both are essential, both are authoritative within their respective domains, and the distinction between them will be practically important when specific questions about belief and action are discussed. Having established how Islamic knowledge is structured, we turn to a term that every Muslim has heard, al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, but whose meaning many do not fully know. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As narrated that the Prophet Muhammad said, "The children of Israel divided into 72 groups, according to some narrations, 71, and my ummah will divide into 73 groups. All of these groups will be in the fire, except one." The people asked, "O Messenger of Allah, which is the one that will not go to the fire?" He replied, "That which is on what I and my companions are upon today." From this hadith, the name was constructed. From the Prophet, we take the word Sunnah, his way, his practice, his path. From the group of his companions, we take the word Jama'ah, the community. And the people who live according to the Prophet's way and walk in the footsteps of his companions are known as al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, the people of the Sunnah and the community. It is important to understand what al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah is not. It is not a specific sect or a particular faction competing with other factions. It is the name for any Muslim who lives their life according to the Prophet's way and the way of his companions, particularly in the matters of aqaid, the articles of faith. The Prophet indicated that salvation belongs to those whose creed aligns with what he and his companions believed. The name simply describes that alignment. Within the broad framework of al-Sunnah, and specifically in the domain of aqaid, classical Islamic scholarship recognizes two great schools of theological expression. These are not two separate religions, nor even two separate communities. They are two scholarly articulations of the same Islamic creed, developed by two towering scholars of the 3rd Islamic century, scholars who gave the Ummah a gift it still depends upon. The Ash'ari school is named after and founded by Imam Abu al-Hasan Ali ibn Ismail al-Ash'ari, may Allah have mercy upon him. He was born in 260 AH in Basra, in present-day Iraq, and he died in 324 AH. He was a direct descendant of the great companion of the Prophet, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, may Allah be pleased with him, the companion renowned for his Quranic recitation and his juristic knowledge, and whom the Prophet praised with exceptional warmth. Al-Ash'ari was 9th in descent from this blessed companion. Al-Ash'ari was one of the most comprehensive and systematic theologians in the history of Islam. He articulated the beliefs of Ahl al-Sunnah with rigorous intellectual precision, armed with the tools of theological argument, and earned the recognition of the Ummah as a foremost authority in this field, an honor reflected in his title Rais al-Mutkallimin, the foremost among the scholars of theological discourse. Every scholar who accepts and follows his methodology of presenting and defending the articles of faith is called Ash'ari. The Maturidiyya school is named after Imam Abu Mansur Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Maturidi, may Allah have mercy upon him. He was from Maturid, a district in the city of Samarkand, in present-day Uzbekistan, and he died in 333 AH. He belonged to the same broad century as al-Ash'ari and addressed the same theological challenges with the same fundamental commitment to Sunni doctrine. The Maturidi school is inseparably linked to the Hanafi school of jurisprudence. This connection traces back to Imam al-Azam Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy upon him, who preceded al-Maturidi by roughly 2 centuries. Imam Abu Hanifa laid the theological foundations in works such as al-Fiqh al-Akbar and al-Fiqh al-Absat, articulating the positions of Sunni creed in the tradition of Kufan and Transoxianian scholarship. Abu Mansur al-Maturidi later built upon those foundations, systematized them, codified them with full scholarly rigor, and gave them the form that became the Maturidi school. Every scholar who follows this theological methodology, and this includes the vast majority of those who follow the Hanafi school of jurisprudence, is therefore called Maturidi. Given that the Hanafi school is one of the most widely followed schools of Islamic law in the world, stretching from Central Asia to South Asia, Turkey, and the Levant, the Maturidi school represents an enormous portion of the global Muslim community. The critical point to understand about the Ash'ariya and Maturidiya is this: they are not two separate groups in the sense of holding substantially different aqaid. The differences between them are differences in expression, in specific terminological choices, and in the precise formulation of certain theological concepts, not differences in the fundamental realities of Islamic belief that underlie those expressions. Both schools affirm the same essential creed of Ahle Sunnah, the same understanding of Allah's attributes, the same position on prophethood, the same teachings on the hereafter. Both schools articulated their positions with extraordinary depth and scholarly rigor, and both gave the Ummah an inheritance it can and does rely upon. Having established the structure of Islamic knowledge, we now turn to how that knowledge is derived and validated. Fiqh, the practical legal rulings, is derived from four sources: the Qur'an, the Sunnah, Ijma, which means scholarly consensus, and Qiyas, meaning analogical reasoning. This is the classical usul al-fiqh framework known to every student of Islamic law. But establishing and verifying Aqeedah works from a slightly different set of sources. The four foundations of Aqeedah proof are the Qur'an, the Sunnah, Aql al-Salim, meaning sound reason, and Sawad al-Azam, which means the great majority. The Qur'an and Sunnah are the primary and most authoritative sources for Aqeedah, as they are for everything in Islam. The Prophet made this binding upon the entire Ummah in one of his most memorable statements, delivered in his farewell sermon: "I leave with you two things, if you hold firmly to them, you will never go astray, the Book of Allah and my Sunnah." When a question of Aqeedah arises, any question about what to believe concerning Allah, His prophets, the angels, the revealed books, the last day, or divine decree, the first step is to ask, what does the Quran say about this? What does the Sunnah of the Prophet establish? These two sources take precedence over everything else, and no evidence from any other source can override what they clearly establish. The third evidence for Aqeedah is Aql-e-Salim. The Arabic phrase Aql means reason or intellect, and Salim means sound, pure, free from corruption or impurity. Together, Aql-e-Salim refers to the faculty of reason when it is operating properly, when it is unclouded by false premises, unsullied by desire, and genuinely oriented toward truth. In the Islamic understanding, the Aql is a nur, a divine light, that Allah has placed within every human being and every jinn. By its light, human beings can distinguish good from evil, right from wrong, truth from falsehood, the path of salvation from the path of misguidance. This rational capacity is a universal gift. But there is a crucial qualification: Aql-e-Salim, sound reason, is not simply any reason. A person's reason operates soundly only when it is informed by deep, genuine knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. Without that knowledge as its foundation, a person's reason can be misled by false philosophies, incomplete information, or the desires of the lower self. The reason of someone who has thoroughly absorbed the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah is Aql-e-Salim. The reason of someone whose thinking is untethered from revelation may be reason, but it is not the Salim, sound, variety that can serve as evidence for Aqeedah. The necessity of reason as an evidence for Aqeedah did not arise from within the Islamic tradition itself. It arose from a challenge that came from outside it. The city known in the Islamic tradition as Yunan, the ancient homeland of the Greeks, whose name in Arabic is Yunan, still the Arabic word for Greece today, traces its name, in Islamic genealogical tradition, to Yunan ibn Yafith ibn Nuh, Javan, the son of Japheth, the son of Noah, peace be upon him. From this ancestor, the Greek people took their name in the Arabic-speaking world, and from this city came two of the most influential intellectual traditions in human history, mantiq, logic and reasoned argument, and falsafa, philosophy. Together, these are known in the Arabic scholarly tradition as ulum-e-aqaliya, the rational sciences, because they operate primarily on the basis of reason. By contrast, the knowledge that comes through the Qur'an and Sunnah, transmitted directly from revelation through chains of authenticated narrators, is called ilm-e-manquli, transmitted knowledge. The knowledge derived through rational inquiry is called ilm-e-maquli, reasoned knowledge. The transmission of Greek rational sciences into the Arab world took place in stages. The first and historically notable figure associated with this process was Khalid ibn Yazid ibn Muawiyah, an Umayyad prince and grandson of the first Umayyad Caliph Muawiyah. He died around 85 AH and is counted among the first people to commission the translation of Greek scientific and philosophical works, particularly in alchemy and medicine, into Arabic. He was a man of considerable learning, close to the centers of political power, and his patronage opened a door through which Greek thought would gradually enter Arab intellectual life. Some generations later, this process was dramatically expanded by Hunayn ibn Ishq, a 9th century Arab Christian scholar who served as the foremost translator of the Bayt al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, in Baghdad under the Abbasid Caliphs. He translated the philosophical and medical works of Aristotle, Plato, Galen, Hippocrates, and Dioscorides into both Arabic and Syriac, and is remembered as Shaykh al-Mutarjimin, the foremost of the translators. Through his work, and through the broader translation movement he was part of, the intellectual heritage of ancient Greece became deeply embedded in the Arabic-speaking scholarly world. Once the rational sciences of mantiq and falsafa had been absorbed into Arab intellectual culture, a new class of questions began to circulate, questions that the Qur'an and Sunnah, in their direct texts, had not needed to address, because the need to address them had not existed in the time of the Prophet. The Qur'an tells us, Allah is one. He is Al-Hayy, the ever-living. He is Al-Qayyum, the eternal sustainer. He does not tire. His knowledge has no limit. But the Qur'an and Sunnah are largely silent on certain deeper metaphysical questions about the Zat of Allah, His ultimate, incomprehensible essence, because in the era of the Prophet, there was no scholarly need to discuss them. The companions believed and did not require that level of philosophical elaboration. When mantiq and falsafa entered the scene, however, people trained in those disciplines began to ask questions of a different kind. How is Allah's essence constituted? Does He exist in a location? Is His face made of parts? Are His attributes, His knowledge, His power, His will, eternal or created? How can a human body decompose, be consumed by the earth, and still be resurrected whole on the day of judgment? When the scholars of Islam saw that these philosophical arguments were beginning to lead people away from authentic Aqeedah, that people were taking the rational framework of mantiq and arriving at conclusions that contradicted the Qur'an and Sunnah, they recognized that a textual response alone was no longer sufficient. A person trained in mantiq who presents a philosophical objection cannot simply be answered with a Quranic verse, as though the verse resolves the logical puzzle. They will continue pressing their rational argument. The scholars of Islam therefore undertook to learn mantiq and falsafa themselves, not to adopt their conclusions, but to command their language and their methods, so that they could answer rational arguments with rational arguments that were, in addition, fully grounded in the Qur'an and Sunnah. They engaged the questions one by one. One example is the question of bodily resurrection, specifically, the objection that a decomposed body cannot be reassembled and raised. The scholars of Islam responded by pointing to a specific prophetic teaching, that in the human body there is a small bone near the base of the spine, known in Arabic as Ajb al-Tanab, the coccyx, which does not decompose. The Prophet said, "Every part of the son of Adam will decay except the coccyx, from it he was created, and from it he will be recreated on the day of resurrection." It is from this preserved particle, infinitesimal though it may be, that Allah will recreate the full human body at the resurrection, without any limitation. When a person argues from reason that resurrection is impossible, the scholars can respond, "Here is the mechanism, and here is the divine declaration that it will occur." This is how Aql-e-Salim, sound reason, informed by the Qur'an and Sunnah and then deployed in its defense, became a recognized evidence for Aqeedah. Not all reasoning can serve this function, only the reasoning of a person whose mind is grounded in revelation. The fourth and final evidence for Aqeedah is Sawad-e-Azam. The word Sawad, in classical Arabic means a group or community. Azam means the greatest or largest. Together, Sawad-e-Azam refers to the great majority of the Muslim Ummah. This concept is grounded in an explicit prophetic teaching. Ibn Umar reported that the Prophet Muhammad said, "Allah will not gather my Ummah upon misguidance. Allah's hand is upon the community. So follow the Sawad al-Azam, for whoever separates from this great community has separated himself into the fire." The theological implication is clear and profound. Allah has guaranteed that the great body of the Muslim community, particularly on matters of fundamental Aqeedah, will not collectively go astray. He will not permit the Ummah as a whole to settle on a mistaken belief. If a large, sustained, and mainstream community of Muslims has held a particular Aqeedah across centuries, that consensus is itself evidence that the Aqeedah is correct. And conversely, if an individual or small group holds a Aqeedah that departs from the mainstream Muslim community, that very departure is itself a warning sign. To remain with the Sawad-e-Azam is to remain within the community upon which Allah's hand of mercy and protection rests. To separate from it, in creed, is to expose oneself to a separation that the Hadith compares to a direct path toward the fire. Remarkably, the very first surah of the Qur'an, Al-Fatiha, the opening, contains within it a prayer that points directly toward the concept of Sawad-e-Azam. Allah placed in the mouth of every believer a request they make in every prayer, multiple times each day. Guide us to the straight path. The path of those upon whom you have bestowed your favor, not of those who have earned your anger, nor of those who have gone astray. The path of those upon whom you have bestowed your favor, this is an implicit reference to the Sawad-e-Azam, the great community of those who have been guided and remained on the straight path. By making this dua in every rak'ah of every prayer, the believer is asking Allah to keep them aligned with this blessed majority, and to protect them from the deviation represented by those who earned Allah's wrath and those who went astray. Allah does not leave us to guess. In Surah Al-Nisa, He identifies precisely who these favored people are. And whoever obeys Allah and the Messenger, those will be with the ones upon whom Allah has bestowed favor, the prophets, the truthful, the martyrs, and the righteous. And excellent are those as companions. 4 categories are named. The first are the prophets, the chain of divine messengers from Adam through to Muhammad. The second are al-Siddiqun, the truthful, the highest-ranking companions of the Prophet, whose truthfulness and fidelity to the faith were without peer, men of the stature of Abu Bakr al-Siddiq. The third are al-Shuhada, the martyrs, those who gave their lives in the path of Allah. The fourth are al-Salihin, the righteous, a comprehensive category that includes all the companions of the Prophet, the Tabi'in, the generation that followed them, the Tabtabi'in, the generation after that, and all the Awliya, Fuqaha, and Ulma of this Ummah who carried and preserved the light of the religion through every subsequent generation. These 4 categories together constitute the Sawad-e-Azam, the great, sustained community upon whose shoulders the authentic Aqeedah of Islam has been carried from the time of the Prophet to the present day. Bringing everything together, the path is clear. The correct Aqeedah is the Aqeedah upon which the Prophet stood and upon which his companions stood. It is the Aqeedah that the scholars of Islam, through ilm-e-kalam, through aql-e-salim grounded in Qur'an and Sunnah, and through centuries of scholarly consensus, have verified and transmitted to the present. And it is the Aqeedah upon which the great majority of the Muslim Ummah, across generations and continents, has agreed. If a person encounters a Aqeedah that departs from the Sawad-e-Azam, that contradicts what the great mainstream of Muslim scholarship has always held, that very departure is itself evidence of a problem. The Hadith has told us, whoever separates from the great community has separated themselves toward the fire. And if a person has the evidence of Sawad-e-Azam on their side, if what they believe is what the prophets believed, what the companions believed, what the scholars of every generation have transmitted and verified, then they can say with confidence, this is the right Aqeedah, because it stands with those upon whom Allah's hand of mercy rests. May Allah keep our Aqeedah sound, our knowledge correct, and our hearts aligned with the great community of those upon whom His hand of mercy rests. May He protect us from deviation, from the errors of those who separated themselves from the straight path, and may He gather us in the company of His prophets, His truthful ones, His martyrs, and His righteous servants. Amin, and Allah knows best.